Hello and welcome to True Guidance Tarot. I'm Adriana Teodoro-Dier. I'm a practicing spiritual medium and intuitive reader, your guide to a clearer perspective. I've got a message for Gemini today. This is a channeled message from my guides and from the other side. So let's get started. Gemini, you've got to really be careful of misunderstandings this week. That is the big theme of your reading. We have the Ten of Swords for the energy that the universe is sending you. Now, this is an interesting energy because we're talking about a pattern ending. But again, I get that feeling of communication being kind of wonky this week for you. So what this to me says is the end of a conflict, that they're asking you to just end a conflict, whatever that is. I do feel as though this is with other people, but it could also refer to within yourself. If you're feeling conflicted about something, this is definitely the week to let that go. Now, we've got the Queen of Wands, and this Queen of Wands card, she's a little bit tricky. She's a little bit mischievous. This is the energy with which you respond to this Ten of Swords energy. She's got that fire going in the background, and she has a magic wand, and I always get the feeling with her that she's pretending like she didn't start that fire, but we know she did. She's got all the power in the world to start that fire, and she's kind of like, what fire? I didn't start any fire. So rather than putting fires out, she's starting fires. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's going to be, not that happy saying this to you, but there's going to be the tendency to want to poke the fire, to start things, to kind of stir things up a bit, instigate. That's the word I'm getting. And this is asking you to look at your power differently. That rather than looking at it to stir things up or instigate or kind of get yourself in the middle, rather that when you're removed from the conflict, you actually have the most amount of power. She's sitting on this throne and she's very far away from that fire. In fact, she's got a little cat right underneath her. So everything's calm where she is. So you actually have the most power. You can do the most amount of good away from the fire, away from the conflict. So let's keep going. Interesting cards coming next. We've got the Queen of Cups going into the Seronis, which is the Devil card in the traditional tarot, ending in the King of Swords. And actually, they're both tending towards this way. And it's super interesting, right? We've got the female figure on the right with the Queen, and we've got the male figure from the left with the King. So it's almost like these two figures are brought to this place. And this is where I feel the misunderstanding is going on. One of you is coming from the mind, from what is known in the mind to be rational and to make sense and to be analytical and to hook up, like that whole, here's the logic and follow it. But he's not coming from an intuitive emotional side, which is where the other person is coming from, or the other party is coming from. They may be going off of an intuition, which doesn't make sense actually, because that's the point of intuition. It makes sense kind of after the fact. It's always telling us the right beneficial information in the moment, but oftentimes the rational mind can't get it. It's kind of like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that now? And so I'm starting to also feel like if this is not describing exactly what's going on in your immediate environment, we're also talking about your own relationship between intuition and rational thought. So again, they're coming from two different places. This guy is all based on facts and logic and things that can be proved. This is just things that are felt, emotional truths, intuitions, hunches, feelings. None of that stuff makes sense to the rational mind. But when they come together, although it looks like they were just in a unified setting, I'm being very Victorian in my speech here. This is clearly afterglow, right? But they're kind of doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and that's why this figure comes. Because although those two sides look like they came together, he's kind of showing us that they really didn't. So you may think that your point is being heard, whether you're coming from this side or this side. You may think your voice is being heard, but this card is saying, no, there's a misunderstanding. There's less of a flow and a blend than what you understand. What I'm thinking is that the rational side, the masculine side of this, is actually stronger. How do I want to say this? It's not that the information is stronger, it's that they've got a little bit of the upper footing with this. The rational side of you, or the rational side of this argument outside of you, it's a little bit stronger for them. They have a little bit more of the upper hand, because you see, she's reaching out to him, but he's not really reaching back to her. There's also the masculine energy is much stronger in this mix than her energy here. So if you're on the other side, if you're getting a feeling or a hunch, I think you need to stand up stronger and say, no, this is really what I'm understanding. This is what I'm getting. We're going to jump to your advice because it's pretty straightforward. We've got the star, and I love this card. It talks about healing and bringing back together what was separate. And that's all we've been talking about, is that there's been a rift or a miscommunication. And you see how she's nourishing the land. Oh, she's nourishing the land, and she's nourishing the water. And this is to me that she's psychically connected as well as connected to the present. Like, she's got her feet on the ground. She's got her energy on the ground. This is a way of bringing both of those sides together into the moment to understand that they're both viable and valuable information, telling you things about the world. The intuition senses things that the rational world can't, but the rational world senses things that the intuition doesn't understand. And the point, this is important, the point of the intuition, the water here, is to flow in both places. It can't just flow in the world of the Queen of Cups. It can't just flow in this place. It actually has to flow the whole time. It has to touch the whole time. So what I was telling you before about standing up stronger with that intuition, this is really true, because the intuition has just as much reason to be here as the rational mind. So this is understanding how they can flow and balance together, understanding that they're really coming from the same source. And the source is the intention to do what's best, right? The intention to do what's best for everyone. And sometimes you need one, sometimes you need the other, sometimes you need both together. But it's important that both sides get heard so that you know exactly what to do next. I'm thinking this Ten of Swords is the end to the separation, that we're really wanting these two sides, whether it's two people or two sides of yourself, to come back together and to heal and understand each other. There's something else about the star, so just give me a second. There's a vulnerability that they are asking you to embrace, which is not the idea of being right. It's just the idea of saying, you know what, this is what I'm getting, or this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I'm thinking. It's in that vulnerability that you're actually going to be able to get to the truth. Because it's not like, well, my intuition is telling me this, therefore it's right, or my mind is telling me this, therefore that's right. It's saying, you know what, I'm actually feeling this because I'm feeling this way. Whatever part of you is feeling vulnerable, that has to go into the equation as well, because that's going to give you another little twist about the information. So it'll tell you why the rational mind is thinking the way it is. It'll tell you why your hunches are going a certain way. It could be that your mindset is not, it's not expanded enough. If it's too concerned with fear and survival, it may not be giving you the full intuitive perspective. You may just be getting a little bit. You might not be getting like the whole thing. So this is really an interesting journey you've got this week, Gemini. So I'm really curious to hear from you as to how it goes and what you think. But I do know that whether this is happening outside you or inside of you, this is a big opportunity for healing this week and for rebuilding this rift that has been kind of in place for a long time. So questions, please let me know. You know, I always love to hear from you. If you haven't so far, I would encourage you and ask you to consider subscribing so we can keep this positive energy growing and flowing. And if you are looking for some personal guidance, I invite you to check out my website, trueguidancetarot.com. All sorts of awesome offerings on there. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great week.